You talked about the Celestine Order of Light. What prompted you to move on? And now you're in the Celestine realm.
Well,
How did that happen?
Lots of Ambrose's fault. Another case of a student becoming the teacher. I was perfectly happy on there, but as you know, you and Embrosewyn had your own experiences that brought about the oracles of Celestine Light. And that was a very profound experience for Embrosewyn. Up until that time, I was very content where I was. I was very happy and fun every day. And it still is, but in a different way. But Embrosewyn was called by Elohim to revelate and receive the oracles of Celestine Light. That was completely separate from me. I was not associated with that. I understood it, I was aware of it, I talked about it with Embrosewyn, but it wasn't anything I had to do with. But it had a great impact on Embrosewyn's life. Where before he had not been any, at that point in his life, spiritual, I should say religious. He was spiritual, but he wasn't religious. And he didn't have that connection to Elohim. And neither did I. And he was profoundly affected by that experience and had changed his course in life. And for 5 years, as you know, he revelated the 145 chapters of the Oracles of Celestine Light, which is over an 800-page book. And that's only the first. There's another book equally as big to come. That's going to be the continuation of that story that he has revelated so far. And it became impossible for Embrosewyn to be receiving the things that he was receiving through Elohim, through revelating, and the truths and knowledge and light that was coming on in his mind and in his heart and his soul. It was impossible for him to continue being the way he was before. And so he started going as Elohim wanted him to go. That actually started making he and I somewhat distant, because I was not there myself. But as he came more and more into Celestine Light and accepted his calling in Celestine Light as a representative of Elohim to do this great work, and so because I loved I love Embrosewyn, I love Elohim too, but I didn't at that point have that connection. But I love Embrosewyn. I appreciate his friendship as much as he appreciates mine. And so I wanted to know what's going on, what's doing. And the more I looked into what he was doing, the more I was drawn to it as well, and Sanine as well. And we actually discovered, we didn't really know that much about, we knew there was a Celestine Kingdom, a Celestine realm. We were aware of that. We spoke about it even with you before. Mm-hmm. And so we were aware of that. But it wasn't where we were, and it wasn't, it was just, that's another group of people over there that do their thing, another group of higher beings over there that do their thing, and we don't really get together and do things. And so now I wanted to find out, well, let's go find out about that other realm of people. And I found out, my goodness, this is an astounding realm that's very different than the one that I lived in. And I couldn't even conceive that. And then I realized that it actually was over the one that I was in. The one that I was in that I thought was it wasn't it. There was a more above it. And I find there's actually a realm above the Celestine realm as well. It's called the Elohim realm. Well, then that's beyond me at this point. But so I'll just talk about Celestine realm. And in the case, I learned about the Celestine realm. I learned about what you had to do to be in the Celestine realm. Now, I had enough Celestine energy units in my soul essence that I could be in the Celestine realm, and Sanine could be as well, if we accepted that, the truth of that reality. When I say truth, it's that I had not conceived that what the truth was at that point, until as I started exploring, because Embrosewyn was on that path, and it made me curious. And the more I explored, the more I realized this is the true light. This is the true explanation of everything. And I thought that I had that before, and to realize that I didn't have that before was quite mind-boggling. You think as a galactic that you have access to all this knowledge, and you do, but as much as there is, you still only know a little bit. And so now I know a lot bit more. And I think anyone who's honest with themselves, they can't be exposed to this light and not want to be a part of it. The question is, do they have the courage to be a part of it? It's just like, for me, as I learned what the true reality was, that there is a Heavenly Father and a Heavenly Mother, and they are the Elohim, and their Son, Yeshua, that's the Trinity that makes the Elohim, and that there's all these angels, so many angels I can't even imagine, and they were doing what thought we were doing on the Celestine Order of Light. They had stewardships, and each one of them had a responsibility that did things. And then there were other ones who didn't have that kind of stewardship. They were just kind of, wherever they needed to fill in, they would fill in. And then there were some above that. And there was so much, it was so big. And all the things that I found that I could do as a galactic, I could still do as a Celestine in the Celestine Kingdom, as long as I was understanding of the reality and accepting of the reality. And this is where the courage comes in. It wasn't so difficult for me because I could see it all. I could see what I was in before, I could see clearly where I could go. There was no even choice, it was an easy choice for me. There was a resonance there for me. But I find that it's curious, you have many people who have read now the articles of Celestine Light. And I've watched many of those people. It touches their heart. It resonates in their mind. They know that is true. They know they're reading words of truth that can lighten their life and bring them on a path of joy. But so many of them don't have the courage to do it. They're afraid to disrupt their life. They're afraid of what their friends will think. They're afraid if their husband or wife will agree or support them. And so they turn away from this much greater light that they know is resonating inside them. And it puts a hole in them. And I'm sorry to see that, because I wish that you, as a group of Celestines, would be more proactive in sharing that light with people, because there's so many people that if you share it with them, it does resonate with them, but they need some help in the courage department to make the leap, to make the commitment. Because once they do that, then there's so much more that opens up. Magic, abilities, spiritual connection to higher beings, channeling, telepathy, so many wonderful things that will help them in this life and the next. So anyway, that's and I got off on a tangent again, but I think that's the case, is that that's what happened to me. I started out in Cool, the Celestine Order of Light, and even though it has the same word Celestine, it wasn't connected to the Celestine Kingdom. But as Embrosewyn went down that path, I followed him because it was also the light for me, and Sanine as well, and we ended up in the Celestine Kingdom.
Okay.
That's where we are today.
Well, thank you. Well, that's my next question is, can you explain a little bit more about the Celestine Kingdom, like what the landscape's like? What are the buildings like? What does your dwelling look like? What kinds of foods do you have? What do you eat? How do people prepare food? What do people look like? Is anyone old?
That's a lot of questions.
I know. Well, I figured I should get them in while I can, because you just go on and...
Didn't you read Lazarus' account on Embrosewyn's book that he wrote, Destiny?
Yeah, but that...
I don't know what
exactly.
It was. One of those books, he wrote something. Lazarus told the story about when he went there.
Yes, I
So
have.
you have
but
all the answers already.
Well, but that was his experience. I want to know your experience and what...
My experience is my face itches to watch the talking man. This is very exasperating. Alright, so in any case, how did men... I used to wear a beard, to come to think of it, when I was in my Arizona, but I don't remember it being so itchy. In any case, so all of those questions. So when you die, as I said earlier, you go to the Cropian realm, and you go to whatever reality you think is the reality after death, and you stay in that reality for a time until the universal reality asserts itself, and then your reality fades away, and you realize, oh, well, I am somewhere that I didn't think I was. If you thought you didn't have anything after life, all of a sudden you find, oh, I do have something after life. And in any case, at that point you're going to be drawn to whatever resonance that you actually have, where you're going to take up a permanent residence, if you will. And this is called the judgment of resonance. But by judgment, nobody is judging you except yourself. You're just pulled magnetically to whatever part of the Cropian realm, which is really what the afterlife is some part of the Cropian realm somewhere. And you go to that, whatever your resonance is. And I went originally to the galactic area of the Galactic Kingdom, is part of the Cropian realm. And that's where I went to start with. The Celestine Kingdom was part of the Cropian realm. The Elohim Kingdom, I assume, but I don't know about that because I'm not sure about the Elohim Kingdom. But in any case, we're all probably part of that, so I don't know. I can't say because they don't talk to us about that because it's so far beyond us. So I don't know that. I only know where I am. Okay. And as far as the buildings, everyone can construct whatever kind of building they wish to have. Most people are very they're not ostentatious, so they build very nice buildings that are homey and comfortable for them. They can build them out of any materials they want, stone or wood or whatever. They get to do this mentally. They don't have to have people physically building the parts. They can build it with their mind, so telekinetically, this goes there, that goes there, this goes there. But and even parts can be manufactured on the spot, so if you want a sink, for instance, you can form a sink and it's farmed and it goes in there. And all the elements and parts that you would have to normally refine to get the metal and mine to get the ore and make the porcelain and whatever you make it out of, all of that stuff just assembles as you command it in the Celestine realms.
Wow.
So you can make whatever you want in an environment. For plants, if you want to be in a jungle, you can be in a jungle. If you want to be on the ocean beach, you can be on the ocean beach. All of those places exist, and whatever climate you want to be in, all of those things exist, and you can choose whatever you want. That's one of the joys of the afterlife, is that in this life a person may have been a ditch digger all their life. They may have never had an education beyond 6th grade, but they were a good person. They had a good soul essence, and they were drawn to the Celestine Kingdom. And now they would have all these powers and abilities that they didn't have before, that basically as they can think it, so it becomes. And so that's a very wonderful thing. There's no limit to that, so if you like music, whatever music you want, it just plays. Wherever you are, wherever you say you want it to play. And there's no speakers or anything like that, it just is there, it just plays.
Does it play in your head, or does it play around?
So for instance, if
somebody else didn't like your music?
If this was a house of mine in the Celestine realm, and you were here with me, and I would just have music playing, and it would just be coming from the ethers and playing, and you would hear it and I would hear it. And if you wanted a different music, well, then you go to your house.
So it's the same with cleaning. You don't have to spend time cleaning your house. You just think it's clean and it stays clean.
Exactly that. It's even better than the Lady and Bewitched show.
Oh, well, that's something to look forward to.
You don't have to wiggle your nose to make it happen.
And what about the food preparation? Do you just think it and it's prepared and you can eat it, or?
Well, that's a little different. That's different. You can make things that are not living. You can create it. You can create. So if I want to sit on this couch, I want to create that couch out of rocks and stones and whatever, not leather. No leather.
No.
No. But you could do that, and but if it's a living thing like a plant or an animal, you can't give life to things. So Elohim gives life, and so you can just like you would have on earth, you can have the seeds of something that you plant and you grow in the dirt and you make a tree. But you can create the environment. So for instance, if I know, like in your house here, even though you live in a place that in the wintertime it gets down into the 20s, you have or not unstrewed, but lemon trees and lime trees in your house that are normally from a more tropical environment, but because you're in a house, you can control that. So, well, in the Celestine realm, I could do the same thing on a much greater scale. Is that I may decide I want to live in Antarctic environments. That's my house. I don't want to do that, but just as an example. And but I could say that inside there, I want it to be a tropical paradise, and I could control the environment. My mind could create the environment that I want. I could have just the right humidity. I could have just the right heat. I could have just the right amount of hours of daylight every day that I want. Even though the sun is up in the sky, just like it is here, that's a real sun that's up there. Then there's actually more than one, but it depends on what part of the Cropian realm you're going to see which sun at what time. But in any case, where I am, I can create the same sunlight to just be permeating the very essence of the air. But the tree itself I have to plant in real soil, and it has to grow a real tree. I have to be able to nourish it with real water and all of that. So if it's alive, or if it's anything having to do with creating life, then that has to be done in the normal way. If it's not life, you can create pretty much anything you want.
So, like for growing your food, can you do that very quickly, or is it a long period of time like it is here? You plant the seed.
Well, that's a different as well. If you're growing normal food, then it has to grow in its normal process. Now, there are a lot of things that you don't have on this planet that are on other planets that do grow faster and produce more. And if someone wants to bring those from other planets, even if they never lived on that planet themselves, all of these things are available, so much more than you have just on this one little world. But in addition to that, Elohim has planted, like a Garden of Eden, all over the Cropian realm, in all parts, the good parts and the bad parts have the same type of abundance, if you will, that there are trees and plants and bushes that grow of their own accord. Nobody has to do anything for them, and they actually produce food-like substances. So there's, for instance, egg trees, and they don't produce the same eggs as a chicken, but they look like an egg, and they have a similar taste and consistency as an egg, and you can cook them the same as an egg if you wanted to cook them. I don't recommend doing that, because you can eat them raw, and most things you can do raw like that. But in any case, there's dessert trees, or they have different types of desserts that grow on them. And again, they don't look like a dessert, but they have a fruit that tastes like a dessert. So you may have a fruit, say, well, let's say one of strawberry rhubarb pie. So you can go to a tree that produces a fruit that makes something that tastes like strawberry rhubarb pie, has the same consistency, doesn't look like a strawberry rhubarb pie, but when you bite it, it's, wow, it's like I'm eating a strawberry rhubarb pie. So, and there's many things like that, but they're nutritious, so they taste like stuff that would be bad for you on the planet you live on as a physical body, but they're actually good for you and nutritious for your body, so that's fun.
So you still have to gather your own food. There's not grocery stores, and you have to prepare your food.
All your food is there in abundance. It's very easy to gather, but yes, there are not grocery stores, but you do, and there's no money and things like that. But you do have to get your own food. That's part of it. So you might as well get in the habit now and start growing some of your own food.
But now where you are, you can, if you wanted to go to the other side of the Cropian realm to gather a specific food, you could do that instantly.
That's true.
So you don't have to jump in the car.
But not the other side of the Cropian realm. Only I'm limited to the Celestine Kingdom on the Cropian realm. I can't go to other parts of the Cropian realm that aren't part of the Celestine Kingdom unless I have a specific purpose to go there. I can't just go there to. I have to have a specific purpose if I'm going to go to other parts of the Cropian realm.
Okay, but the Celestine Kingdom is gigantic, so you couldn't walk from one.
That's correct.
Side to the other.
To give you a reference, just think about your planet Jupiter. If you ever, I think you can go on your computers and you can see that representation that shows your Earth in relation its size to Jupiter. So as small as your Earth is to Jupiter, Jupiter is about 100 times smaller than that compared to this, just the Celestine portion of the Cropian realm. So,
Wow.
yes, you can't walk across it, but you can instantly take yourself wherever you want inside the Cropian realm, or excuse me, the Celestine realms, or anywhere in the Cropian realm if you have a purpose in it. You can't just go sightseeing, but you can do if you have a purpose that's going to achieve something, then you can go wherever you want to go.
Okay, now you talked about in the galactic realm, you could choose whatever body you wanted to be at any time. What about in the Celestine Kingdom?
You can also do that here, but most people do not do that. Most people choose a farm that they're comfortable being in, and that's the farm they want to be in. Now you would think that everyone would choose their youngest, most virile, beautiful self to be in, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people, they like their older self, and so they like to be older, and they're still very physically fit because they're in the Celestine realm. They don't get ill, they don't get sick, and their body can do whatever you want it to do. It's not going to die, but how they represent that body, they still, some of them want to be older. I like being like about 30 myself.
Yeah, that sounds like a good age. So you still have days and nights, and you sleep, and because you have to have your night travels.
That is correct.
How is it compared to our days and nights on Earth?
Well, it's a little different than that, because our realm is, if you think about it like a big planet, and it does revolve, but there's multiple suns, there's multiple other planets that get involved in it. So I've got to so that's itching. Alright, I'm sorry. I really apologize.
That's okay.
I don't understand the way the beard is so itchy. But in any case, what was the question again? Oh yes. No.
About days and nights.
Days and nights. Yes, so it's better just to treat your own day and night, because the Cropian realm is so complex. There's so many different things that influence the actual day and night of the area. So everybody can create their own day and night as they want. So if you want to have, for instance, a 12-hour day and a 12-hour night, just over your little part of the world, maybe your 5 acres or whatever, and it'll be that way. But you go next door and they may want to have a 14-hour day and a 10-hour night. So
Interesting.
and even though, so yes, but whatever you want, you can create. That's all part of the. If it's not living, you can create whatever you want. And if it is living, you can create it, but Elohim has to breathe life into it.
Oh, okay. So what does a day in the life of Philos look like? Like, what are your jobs? What are your current projects? What do you do for fun? What kinds of things do you do for relaxation?
You sure I'm not boring you here?
No.
You sure? I haven't had
Not at all.
I haven't heard from her at all. So I think she was asleep.
Well, I have the list of questions.
I'm avidly listening.
All right, so a day in the life of Philos. Well, a day in the life of Philos, compared to other Celestines, I think I'm pretty lazy actually. You seem like I'm doing a lot to you, but compared to others, I don't do very much. But typically on an average day, just like I'm channeling right now with Embrosewyn, I'll typically channel with people either, if it's a full body, full trance channel, I should say I communicate. I'm going to communicate in one way, either channeling or telepathically, with at least 50 different beings every day. Sometimes as many as 100 a day. And there's no set number. It's those who I have a connection to that I can help, or the Elohim or the Elohim's representatives have assigned me to help, then that's what I do. And that's one thing I do. I can do that with many people at the same time. So for instance, even right now while I'm in full body, full trance channeling with Embrosewyn, I am simultaneously telepathically communicating with 17 others, and I am also simultaneously in the body of a full trance channel with 7 others. So,
wow.
But again, that's a small amount compared to most of the Celestines. They can do much more, or they choose to. I could do more too, but I don't choose to because I'm lazy.
A different perspective on lazy.
But what's one of the great things about being a Celestine and even being a galactic is it's much easier to multitask. You can do a lot of things at the same time. And whereas when you're in the physical body, it's almost recommended that you focus on just one thing at a time, because that's how much more limited you are in that physical body and mind. But in any case, one of my great joys that I really enjoy doing in the Celestine Kingdom that I never had a full chance to do in the Galactic, I got a little chance to do some things like that, but not on the grand scale that we do here, is we actually create things that are going to be on worlds. So for instance, the Elohim are constantly creating new Earths. There are innumerable Earths. When I say innumerable, I'm not talking about just planets floating out there that are habitable. I'm talking about planets that have full-blown civilizations that are just as populated as your Earth, and even more so. Some of those planets are actually quite large compared to yours, and so they have a great deal more beings on them. Most of them are Alamars like you, human beings, but there are also many alien races. There are actually 50 at this time, 50 different alien races that are not Alamars that have space traveling capabilities, and your planet is just beginning to get that. And then there's also many, many, more than you can count, worlds of Alamars that have space traveling capabilities, because your Alamar, this human farm that we call Alamar, that is the most predominant farm in the universe of all the different planets and all the different peoples and all the different beings. Now there's many others that are not at all Alamars, and they're more intelligent and much more advanced than you are, and there's some that are not at all Alamars that are much less, but so that again you're kind of in the middle for that. So what I like to do here, that's very wonderful, is because all these worlds are constantly being created, and they do start just like your story of how this Earth started. It's very similar, and so it gets every world you get to create. So as you can see, all the beautiful plants and animals that you have on your world, well, Elohim lets all of those who are in the Celestine realm, if they choose, if they would like to help create, they can create anything. So if you want to say, okay, they'll give you an easy task to start with, create a simple plant. Well, do you want to have long grassy fronds, or do you want to have a bunch of flowers, or what do you want the leaves to look like? You have to design every part of it, and however you want it, but it has to work. You see, so it's not just that you design something and Elohim brings it to life. You have to understand what you're designing. So let's say that you're designing a plant. So what environment is that plant going to be in? Is it going to be in the desert? Is it going to be in a cold country? Is it going to be in a temperate country? Is it going to be in a humid country? Is it going to be in a dry country? Is it going to be a water plant? Is it going to be a soil plant? So you have to understand all of those things, and then you can design the plant however you want. You can make it have pink flowers, purple flowers, big flowers, 5 flowers, whatever. You can make it have different kinds of leaves, but it has to be something that works for the environment it's in. So you have to know, where is this plant going to go on this planet, and then you have to design its structure, its roots, its bark, its leaves, its stems, its size that it's going to grow, what kind of fruit, how is it going to reseed itself and propagate. All of those things, you can design it to look however you want, as long as you understand that it has to function. It's like if you're building a car. You can design a car to look whatever you want it to look like, but if you designed it so that there's no way the engine that you design will work, then that car will never move anywhere, it can't go anywhere. And so that's the same thing as Elohim asks us to start designing whatever we want, and they'll be assigned to a certain part of a new world. So you're going to, for instance, to say, Philos, you're going to go, I need you to create some plants for the desert here. Well, that's an easy one because I grew up in the desert, so I know what desert plants are like. So I can say, okay, they'll have to have leaves like this and like that, but I want to have really cool little flowers that come out like that. And then, because how's it going to attract to get reproduced? Are there going to be bees or whatever? And so you have to have a lot of knowledge. So it's not just a matter of having the will or the desire or the creativity. Knowledge is essential, and that's something that I would recommend to everyone who's listening to this tape. Do not ever stop gaining actual knowledge. Going to school. You should never stop going to school. Whether you're doing it at an actual formal school, or you're doing it, you can study so much on the internet now, you don't actually even have to be in a formal class, but be learning things that are actually knowledge of the earth and of the plants and of everything, because when you go to the next realm, for you to be able to actually do anything, and then in doing something gives you more Celestine energy to your soul essence, if you're going to be doing anything, you have to have knowledge of how to do it. Just think about a plant. If I said right now to each of you, I want you to design a plant for this area where you now live, a new plant that doesn't exist, and you can design it to look like whatever you want as long as it will function in this environment. So, do you have the knowledge to do that? You do not, because I know you. But
Correct.
This is a knowledge that you would have to have. And the plants are easy. What if Elohim asked you to design an animal? That's more complex. So now you have to design an animal for the same environment. So what's it going to eat? How's it going to mate? How's it going to have young ones? Are they going to be born live? Are they going to come from eggs? And why is that? What's the advantage of having eggs in their environment versus not a live birth? Or is there going to be some other way? Is it going to be a simple animal? Philos should say too that you have no idea. You're very limited. Your planet is actually very simple. You think about, you have a lot of life, but so much of the life is based upon this male gets with this female, makes babies, and the babies come out. Maybe they come out from eggs, maybe they come out live birth, or this plant reproduces and grows like that. And you think about having a male and female. So much is based upon male and female. And male and female is great, but there are creations that have been made. I have a lot more sexes than male and female. I'm not talking about your current thing where we have transgender, where people say, well, I'm a birth male, but I want to be a female, or I'm a birth female, I want to be a male because that's what I most associate with. They're still, their bodies, they started out that way, and they can take drugs and things like that, and they can change. But I'm talking about plants and animals who literally are multiple sexes, not just one or two, but there are some that are dozens, and even I know some that are over 100 different sexes. You can't even think about 100 different sexes because you think male and female. How can you? What do you need more than that for?
Right.
But there are. So anyway, these things all come into it. I would highly recommend that everyone really focus on education and knowledge, because you are held back in the Celestine Kingdom if you don't have that knowledge. So there are many schools in the Celestine Kingdom, many universities, if you will, but they're actually just classes. So if you need, for instance, knowledge in botany, you can take botany classes. If you need knowledge in environmental science, you can take environmental science classes, and you can't really do things, you can't grow as fast, you can't have as many assignments and joys unless you have the knowledge to be able to do it. So the more you can gain while you're in the physical life of knowledge, the less you're going to have to do when you're in the Celestine realms if you go there.